welcome people. Thanks for coming. Let's start. Numero uno. The beginning of the Third World War is massive for humanity. Especially for people called the Mummy. Now Syria is actually on these guys, so these countries join the summer. Kuban and the Federation join the war, and so slowly this escalates with the Weltpact joining again, and let's just say this, since Corsica is also under the control of the Fourth Rome, because Fourth Rome basically reformed Byzantium. That also means that they mostly start with a dominance over the Mediterranean, as Spain doesn't have a large enough fleet to that. I mean, Italy still controlled, and there's a lot of colonies still. Those colonies still exist. And the Third World War is more similar to the first, with it being a more true World War compared to the Second World War, which was a more of a European World War with some things happening in Asia. As in just a few weeks, the latter would escalate to the entire world. And the nukes in this timeline wouldn't really be used. Since this is the 1970s, I guess the moon landings happened already. And the Entente really looks old and weak, but it's not like it's not like Mittel Europa is doing any better. Since Mittel Europa has some colonies which it could use for army things. Belgium's still neutral somehow, and of course the Japanese still come to the aid of the Entente. So in the first few weeks, the Entente are absolutely good at destroying all the other armies, but the Spanish do use the Balearic Islands as a naval base, so massive naval battles going around here. So currently the areas that are at stake. So important naval areas that need to be controlled, and who they are controlled, and this includes the Balearic Islands, the Bay of Tunis, the Libyan Sea, this area with the Jewish island in there. Also the French coast, Genoa, this area, Rome for the Italians. This and the Adriatic Sea. These are currently the Mediterranean battles armies of control. Meanwhile, the Detente, so as you can see, only a few areas in the Eastern Mediterranean are controlled by the Weltpact, with Spain and Tunisia dominating the navy of the Weltpact, especially in Mediterranean. The Mediterranean, with Spain reclaiming Gibraltar, it's pretty easily could use this as an edge, as a sword, but it could be a double-edged sword since a lot of the Spanish navy is there. and Spain could really get blockaded. And in order to shuffle supplies around, especially very needed rubber, which comes from Africa, it would be very important to move into Morocco and occupy the coast of Morocco. After the occupation of Morocco, Algerian troops start moving into Libya, while the Republic of Tunisia and the northern Chad starts moving into Mali. Meanwhile, Nigerian troops, this army's troops, and French colonial troops all move in to capture Cameroon. Along with that, some Somali clans try to rebel against Ethiopia, and they're pretty successful in that, along with Djibouti. The Brits decide to blockade Jeddah, so Lamania, but the Arabs strike back with a naval invasion of Eritrea, and they also invade neutral Djibouti, and annexing them to the Arabia. After that, the small armies get cut off, so it falls. So now a double blockade is formed here, so all trade around Jeddah is wiped out, so an inter-African continental railroad has to be built. So that's blocked by Germany, which is currently getting crushed from all sides, but the blockade of the Suez and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. With the Bab el-Mandeb and the Jeddah blockade, both sides are forced into a tiny pickle here, while Egyptian port areas, along with Syrian port areas, are independent now. Syria and Armenia are trying to play their best, but Georgi Chokarashvili, or that's what his name is, create model for a great Georgian military legacy. That can't really be said for Iran and Azerbaijan, which are, even though Azerbaijan is really being exploited by Middle Europe, same with Iran, and since they control most of the world's oil, these guys are basically dependent on Belgium for now. Meanwhile, in the east, the Chinese are basically neutrals. They don't want to nuke themselves again. The Japanese currently have 0 nukes due to the terrible Japanese administration, but they're currently recovering. Same with Korea and China, but this destruction didn't really spread to the west of Europe. So there is some ideas of nuclear convergence, so there's possibility, but currently no side is that weak or that stupid to do that, or even that desperate. As even the Fourth Rome and the Turks, which are actually able to strike back against them and have some Turkish remnants in here, that revolt decides to strike back against the Fourth Rome, but the Pontic Republic is actually really good at defending their taken land, along with Kurdistan, which is getting crushed by Assyrian and Armenian troops. Which have concluded between Derbent and Baku Blitzkrieg, have forced the Mountain Republic and even Georgia into a pickle, with Georgia currently standing as a fortress, being currently cut off from all international trade and having a small navy, while the Pontic Republic, the Fourth Rome rule the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. The Pontic Republic is a union of Bulgaria and Greece, which also includes Serbia-ish. Meanwhile, Spain is actually really good at defending. and especially through its naval areas, as its navies now protect all. So the Asturias naval invasion done by the Brits, which are pretty strong even now. The French are planning to retake this area as the Germans are going under crises. Hungarian and Romanian troops, which have currently been allied due to Hungary being controlled by the Habsburg dynasty, even in the 1970s, they still somehow survive. So eventually, an encirclement and semi-encirclement in the Bruges is done, and Constance is getting sieged while protesters are slow cause the fall of Constance. The Sol area is getting weird, along with that with Turks are also being ready on the rear of Constantinople. It really comes down to the Soviets. I mean, the Soviets could really join both sides. They have the casus belli to join both sides or more justification. Eventually, the war spreads to Jim Crow America, which joins the Weltpact or
Światowy Sojusz.
Złoty Sojusz or Globalny Sojusz. So, because both are official languages of what the Soviet design currently referred to as the Weltpact, because they didn't want to pronounce Polish, even though I think Polish people are better. So basically, and the US is absolutely great at destroying Canada, mainly their industrial area. The Quebec War actually stuck in the middle of a weird thing. They have good relations with France, but they don't want to be under Canada, and they just straight up choose independence. So all of Newfoundland and the Quebec easily falls to America. I don't think this is the period where Alberta becomes like Texas. I think it's still pretty Canadian still during this time period, I think so. So Canada turns into guerrilla warfare, with even some northern cities getting conquered by Americans. After that, the Americans invade 3 packs of ice, or Greenland, as they say. The Soviets are not that economically strong, so I don't expect them to become super strong after the wars, even if a nuclear apocalypse doesn't happen. But the Germans are actually able to push the French back. Same with the Italians, and eventually the war settles into a similar point as the First World War, but this time with no weird cliches. The Weltpact knows that they won't realistically reach Japan until America just straight up, since it has most of its navy still intact, straight up starts doing the same thing that they did in WW2s, and since Japan's nukes don't work anymore because of how weak they are really easy to capture the Philippines, and they also nuked Japan a second time. The Japanese still don't surrender. It's the Japanese we're talking about. And after that, let's end the video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and good luck, and may God bless.